Hello friends and viewers. In this video I am going to talk about the cell and its organelles. If you are from any field of the biological science like the biochemistry, genetic engineering, pharmacy or any medical science field, you must know the cell and its organelles and how they are function inside of our body. So cell are the basic unit of the life and the cell have different organelles enclosed by the cell membrane. The cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane or cytoplasmic membrane, separate the interior of the cell from the outside environment of the cell, or called the extracellular space of the cell. This cell membrane is made up of a lipid bilayer, and this lipid bilayer have a lots of protein embedded on this lipid bilayer. And here in this figure you can see this skin-like structure that encloses the cell organelle is the cell membrane, and this thin tiny structure is made up of lipid bilayer. And here you can see the lipid bilayer. This is called bilayer because this is one layer and this is one layer, made the bilayer. And this bilayer is made up of phospholipid. Phosphate is this rounded circle and the lipid is this two-tail. Phosphate is the hydrophilic part of the lipid bilayer, and this two-tail made up of fatty acid are the hydrophobic part. And this bilayer is embedded with lots of protein. At least 3 types of protein are very important. The first one is the integral protein, which span from the outside of the lipid bilayer to the inside of the lipid bilayer, and this is also called the transmembrane protein. The second one is the peripheral protein, which reside inside of the cell, and they normally attach to the integral protein in some way and in a definite time to do a specific function, and then they detach from the integral protein. And third kind of protein is called the lipid anchored protein. They reside in either part of the lipid bilayer, normally the interior part of the lipid bilayer, and they attach to the lipid part of the bilayer. For example, the G protein is lipid attached protein, and the main function of this cell membrane is to surround the cellular organelles and give a specific shape of the cell, and cell membrane is the site for the other cell attachment and the communication with the other cell. The second one is the nucleus. The nucleus resides inside of the cell, and nucleus is called the brain of the cell because nucleus contains the genomic material of the cell. All the DNA and the genomic material are enclosed inside the nucleus, and DNA normally packed with the protein like the histone and the non-histone protein. They are called chromatin, and all the DNA and the histone, non-histone protein plus chromatin, they are called the chromosome. And chromosome is visible in light microscope when the cell start to divide, because at that time they become condensed, but otherwise it is very difficult to see the DNA in the light microscope. And this nucleus also contain the nucleolus. Third one is the nucleolus. Nucleolus is inside of the nucleus and a dense part of the nucleus, and this part of the nucleolus have got some specific type of DNA which transcribe the ribosomal RNA. After transcribing of the ribosomal RNA, they are transported to the outside of the nucleus. The fourth one is the ribosome. Ribosome is a big particle made up of a lots of proteins and the RNA. The main function of the ribosome to synthesize the protein, because when this nucleus transcribe the mRNA from the DNA and transport to the cytosol, those cytosolic mRNA can be translated by the ribosome, those attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. Ribosome also can be in the cytosol as a free moving particle. So when the ribosome get this transcribed mRNA, and depending on that transcribed mRNA, they make the proteins from the amino acid from the cytosol. And here you can see that this is the structure of the ribosome. This ribosome has two parts, the smaller part and the bigger part. And here you can see that how this ribosome make the proteins. This is the transcribed mRNA from the DNA, and depending on this template, the ribosome make the protein, and this is the membrane of the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and this is how the ribosome is attached to the membrane, and the protein is transporting to inside of the endoplasmic reticulum, and then this protein will be transported to the outside of the cell membrane via the Golgi apparatus by making a small vesicle in this way. Next is the endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum is the site where the protein are made with the help of ribosome. And when the ribosome is attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, they are called the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And this type of rough endoplasmic reticulum transport protein synthesized by the ribosome. And the second type of endoplasmic reticulum, which do not have the ribosome, and they are called the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. They synthesize the lipid and metabolize the carbohydrates. Next is the Golgi bodies. These Golgi bodies are vesicle-like substances, and they are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and they help to transport from the endoplasmic reticulum to the membrane or the outside of the membrane of the manufactured proteins. And this is the site for the chaperone activity of the correct folding of the protein, because when the protein are made inside of the endoplasmic reticulum, they do not have the correct folding for their function. But through the transportation of the Golgi bodies have the chaperone proteins. Those chaperone protein help the correct folding of the functional protein, and for that reason those folded protein have got the exact three-dimensional structure that can have the specific function to perform. And in the case of when the protein need the carbohydrate moieties, those carbohydrate moieties are attached inside of these Golgi bodies. Next, the mitochondria. Mitochondria is called the power station of the cell, because mitochondria is only one organelle that produces the ATP. ATP is used as a source of power for the cellular function. And mitochondria is doubled bilayered membrane enclosed organelles and produce the ATP and has its own some genetic material and can also auto-replicate. And this is the site for the electron transport chain that produce the ATP. And this is the inner membrane of the mitochondria, and this is the outer membrane of the mitochondria. The electron transport chain function in these two membranes, and the folding of this inner membrane is called the cristae, and the inside material of the mitochondria is called the matrix. Next, the centrosome. Centrosome are special organelle that help in the cell division. And here in this figure you can see that during the cell division the centrosome help for the separation of the chromosome, and center of the all microtubule or the cytoskeleton produced during the cell division, and this help the organized way of separation of the two set of the chromosome. During the cell division, the chromosome need to be separated in an equal way. We have the 46 chromosome. So during the cell division, only one set of the chromosome, for example 23 chromosome, are separated in a specific site, and the 23 are separated in the other side of the cell. This function is done by the centrosome in a very specific arranged way. Then the lysosome. A lysosome are like stomach of the cell, because this lysosome have got some enzymes that can be activated when the pH drops inside of this lysosome, and then this lysosome can kill the foreign proteins, virus and the bacteria, and this lysosome degrade this protein virus and bacteria and kills these virus and bacteria. This also digests the cellular debris that produce all the time of the cellular function. And this is also enclosed by the lipid bilayer. Next is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance that contain all the organelle inside of the cell. And this is the site of metabolism, because during the metabolism a lots of metabolites are produced inside of cell, and this cytoplasm contains all the metabolites. And this cytoplasm also help for the hydrated environment of the cell, because cell have got a higher volume of the water, and those water are deposited in this cytoplasm. Next, the vacuole. Vacuole are normally considered as a sac which have got the hazardous material inside of it, and they are separated from the cytoplasm, that this hazardous material cannot do any harm of the cell. And some vesicles are found, those help for the transporting of different products and metabolites from the one part of the cell to the other part, or from the one part of the cell to the outside of the cell, and they are normally lipid bilayer enclosed vesicles. Next, the cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton is like the skeleton of our body. They give a specific shape of the cell, and they are scattered in all parts of the cell, and they also help in the cell division and also help for the transport protein by the molecular walking. And here you can see that this cytoskeletal protein is attached to the cytoskeleton and helping to transport this macromolecular structure to one place of the cell to the other place of the cell. So those type of organelles are mainly found in both the animal cell and the plant cell. But next three organelles are mainly found on the plant cell. The first one is the vacuole. Vacuole is the prominent organelle in the plant cell. They give a specific shape and the rigidity of the plant cell, and they also help for the storing of the foods and the waste for the disposal. The chloroplast. The chloroplast are the main site for the synthesizing the ATP. Animal cell do not have the chloroplast. Only the plant cell have got the chloroplast, and that's why only plant cell can produce the ATP as a source of energy from the sunlight, because this chloroplast have the pigment called the chlorophyll, which looks green. They can absorb the sunlight from the sun and can produce the ATP, and those ATP can be used as a source of power. And plant cell looks green due to this chlorophyll, because chlorophyll looks green. A plant cell have hundreds of this chloroplast. Next is the cell wall. Cell wall is also a specific phenomena for the plant cell, because this gives a strong perimeter of the cell, the strong support for the cell, and help in defense of the cell. And next is the cilia and flagella. Some cell have the cilia. Cilia are the specific structure found on the cell for a specific function. Like human lung cell have the cilia. This cilia help for the clearing of the debris in the lung during the normal breathing, because normal breathing a lots of dust enter inside of our lung. This cilia removes those dust from the lung. And some cell have the flagella. This is the flagella, and this is the structure of the bacteria. Bacteria have the flagella. Normally the human cell do not have the flagella, but only one type of cell, like the sperm cell, have this type of flagella. And most of the human cell have got the nucleus, but only the red blood cell or the erythrocytes do not have the nucleus. So these are the main structure and function of the organelles in a brief. Thank you for watching. If you think this is easy to understand, like us, subscribe to our channel, and do not forget to share it.